Okay, I think we're going to get started, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight on this Tuesday evening. My name is Amber Karen. I'm the Communications Director here at Reads Across America. Welcome. Thank you for taking time to meet with us tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about helping to promote your program. So one of the things I know there's a lot of people on this call who have come to many of our webinars. So there's no real groundbreaking new information here, but it's important for everyone to be reminded and for the new folks who are joining us, because we have so many new locations and groups, just to remind everybody all of the resources that you have available all throughout the year to be successful. So that's the hope for tonight. And members of our communication team are on the line. We'll try and make sure everyone says hello and introduces themselves. But we're hopeful that you'll learn a thing or two to help you be successful in your program locally. So first and foremost, Megan's driving for me. Thank you, Megan, because I can't seem to multitask and talk and at the same time.
We're a team. We got it.
Thank you. So first and foremost, I think one of the biggest things to just kind of establish for everyone is, when we're talking about Reads Across America, I actually had this conversation with somebody today. I think a lot of people think about us as a, December event. We're a one-hit wonder. We have a big event in December. Absolutely. We have a wonderful event that takes place in December, but really this mission to remember, honor, and teach is year-round. And we have so many things happening all throughout the year that when bringing attention to them, both in your local community through the media or social media, or all the various channels we're going to talk about tonight, you just kind of build on it and it's kind of snowballs, so that come December, when you're ready to do your National Reads Across America Day event and have a ceremony, everyone knows what's happening, right? Because they've been invested throughout the year. And that's really what we hope to teach you here tonight, is all the different ways that you can get people invested all year round. So first and foremost, it's all about this program. The reason why it has continued to grow year after year is because it is all about your community. It's really a community-based program. It's because of all of you and the work that you're doing in your community that this grows. I think many of you have heard our founder, Maura Worcester, say this: it struck a chord. And it strikes a chord because it's something that you can connect to things that are happening in your community, right? So there's various ways that you can do that. We, the communications team at Reads Across America, have put a lot of time and energy into really trying to provide you all with the tools to make this simple, kind of a plug and play, to customize what we have done, to make it work for your local community, because everyone's a little bit different. And we do that through social media. Over the last decade, we've all seen social media grow exponentially. There's new channels. There's new ways to talk to people. Even the old channels that we all know and love, like Facebook, have changed, right? You have to work with them a little bit differently than you did in the beginning to get people to pay attention. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Establishing relationships with local media. I cannot express enough. I mean, my background is public relations. That's how I got involved with Reads Across America, was strictly on a public relations standpoint. And really that was all about helping the local media understand why they should care about this program, right? And so, but just telling them about it isn't necessarily enough sometimes. So we really want to help you try and learn how to talk with media and really build a relationship with your local media. And then obviously there's other ways to get involved with the community through working with sponsorship groups and other community programs in your community. And we're going to talk a lot about actually Reads Across America Radio. That's our own station that we've developed over the last several years, but it really is your station, and it's an outlet for you to share your good news and get people invested in what's happening and sharing the content on Reads Across America Radio. So these are some of the programs that we have. We offer a lot of resources in the chat throughout the evening. They're going to see a lot of links. So if you have not spent any time on our website, I highly recommend you spend some time on the resources tab. So when you go to the resources tab on our website, there's several drop downs. There's veterans resources, also very important. There's resources for media. That is a tool that you can utilize to share with your local media. There's resources there's educational resources that talk about our Teach program. There's volunteer resources. And I think that's our #1 visited page on our website is our volunteer resources page. And there we have created many templates for you to download and customize to use in your local community, however it makes the most sense for you. You can go ahead, Megan. So when we think about the year-round mission, right? Everything that we do is about trying to stay relevant and relevant in what's happening in the day-to-day. So some of the things when you talk about March, so what's today's date? March 12th. It's already March 12th. That's crazy. So it's March 12th. And in the month of March, we have coming up, we have March 25th is Medal of Honor Day, National Medal of Honor Day. We have March 29th is National Vietnam War Veterans Day. March happens to also be a Women's History Month. So those are 3 very relevant, what we would call news pegs that you could try and work with your local media as well as social media and your local community to insert Reads Across America's program into other conversations that are happening. So when we think
it's also the 105th anniversary of the American Legion.
There you go. 100. I didn't even know that one. Thank you. It's the
March 15th.
Okay, thank you, Keith. That's good to know. Well, actually, I'm sure our social media team knew that, but that's great. And that's exactly relevant. So it's one of those things where these are opportunities. So, and every month has these, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. What I would call a news peg, right? So it's something that's happening already that we can insert our program and what we're doing into, right? On our volunteer resources page, which I'm sure has already been dropped in the chat, there's several templated materials there. And when I say templated, really what it is, and Sean, if you want to say hi. Hi, Sean. So Sean has created a lot of what we call templated press releases. So anything that goes out on a national level, maybe not all the things that go on a national level, but most things that we put out nationally, we will then customize it for what we call a hyper local level. So we've kind of broken it down to why would it be relevant to a local media market? And then we leave spaces in that press release for you to customize it with what you have happening. And it could be something as simple as the theme, right? So we announced the theme in January. The theme for this year is Live with Purpose. And we created a template press release that provides an opportunity to not only tell your local community about this national theme, but how you play a part in that national piece. And it gives you the opportunity to highlight maybe some of the volunteers, maybe some of the activities that you have planned in your community. And by using that template and customizing it, and you can use that at any time, you can use it this week if you wanted to put that out in your local community to share what you have going on. It makes it a relevant news story for your local market. So there's tons of press releases on there. There's also media advisories, and it explains a little bit what they're different. But the big piece that I would like to highlight on that page is under the press release materials. There's like a intro to media relations that Sean created, and it really kind of breaks down for you just the basics, and it kind of repeats some of the things that I'm talking about. Thinking about when you're planning a calendar, ways to talk to the local media, ways to build relationships and do a little research into who you should be reaching out to. So if you only look at one document on there, I would say look at the intro to media relations, and we try to make it as simple as possible. We don't expect anybody here to be a media relations expert. You all have real regular jobs. And this is a volunteer position, but we're hoping that it'll give you the baseline for having some of those conversations, right? Also on the website is the media resources page. This page is constantly being updated. We have several updates that are going to be made in the next couple of weeks on this page. But if you're talking or working with a member of the local media, this is a page that I encourage you to send them to. there they can find downloadable materials like our logo. It has B-roll, it has our PSAs, it has photos that are approved for use, but it also has some background materials. And every year we do in October a media guide of all the stories that took place nationally for Wreaths Across America. And the one for 2023 is on there right now. And it's a great way to show a local reporter what the year-round mission means and all the different things that we're doing throughout the year that speak to the mission to remember, honor, and teach. So never hesitate to send people there. Everything on that page is totally accessible and designed for media to be successful. When we put out press releases on the national level from headquarters, we include the link at the bottom of every single press release. So we're driving people there. We want people in the press to go there and to look for more information. So that's a resource to you as well. Go ahead, Megan. So we're still talking about local media. And when we talk about public relations or media relations, I want to just make a real clear definition. We consider this earned media. So the difference between that and advertising is what we call paid media. So if you want to go out and buy a full page ad and say exactly what you want to say, and creatively design something, that's your prerogative to do that. But that is a paid placement, and that's going to cost you dollars, and you have to design something. Earned media is really what it sounds like. You're pitching an idea, right? You're pitching the media a story that we hope is relevant to them, and most importantly, relevant to your community. And the media has a responsibility from a community standpoint to provide content and provide news that's relevant to their community. So, that's where the press release comes into play. A press release is really the who, what, where, when, and why in a very succinct, clear way. And it gives the reporter something that if they have nothing else to go on, they can potentially just use that press release to develop a story on what you're doing. But when we talk about media, that means a lot of things. It's evolved. It's television, it's radio, and print can be a lot of things, obviously, from newspapers to magazines. And it's digital, and digital can be a lot of things. It can be websites. It could be the way people receive their news. It consumes a lot of things. So I think when you're starting to think about how you approach media, look first at how you receive media. Do you watch the news every night? Do you read your local paper? Things like that. Make a list of those outlets, media outlets that are important to you, and those should be kind of your targets to start with. And then, work with other volunteers to understand maybe there's a blogger in your community that you're not aware of, or something like that, where you might have interests that might not be as what we consider traditional media to build on. But it's important to get people involved early in the media. So if you have a fundraising event happening, the mobile education exhibit coming to your community, that's a great way to get, and our team will certainly help you with that and get that news out in your local market. If there's anything that's taking place coming up in April, we'll be announcing the STEM to Stone registration for that virtual race will be available. If that's something you want to participate in, that's something that you could absolutely get the word out about. If you're a location that's new and you haven't announced that you're participating in the program, that's a great way to kind of introduce yourself to your local media market by, saying Oak Grove Cemetery is now participating in the National Wreaths Across America program. This is our first year. We're looking to, do X, Y, and Z and honor this many veterans. That's a great news story to put out now, and to get local media invested in what's happening. So come December, or even earlier, maybe November, when you're needing dollars for re-sponsorships, they'll be more likely to cover whatever you're asking them to cover downstream, if that makes sense, because it's not the first time you've reached out to them. Another thing is, we've talked a little bit, I've already said, is the news pegs, and this is just another reiterating some of those things coming around the corner. We have in April is a month of the military child. May is Military Appreciation Month, and there's a lot of dates in between. I highly encourage you to look up those, you can say, national holidays and see what comes up. It might be relevant to what we're doing. But also, as much as possible, even if it's just introducing local media to the program by inviting them to come out and not even really necessarily do a story, just let them to come out if you're having an event, let them get to know the mission early on. So Sean Sullivan, he waved his hand before. Sean is our PR manager, and he is the point of contact for locations and groups who are looking to do media outreach, who might just need some help, right? Sean can help with, developing media list. If you're not sure if someone, is still there, obviously we recommend you doing some local research yourself, but he's happy to also look at press releases and work with you on developing stories that might be relevant. So, Sean, if there's anything I didn't say in there, jump in.
The only thing that I would add to that is also, as you're checking those press releases, you'll notice that a lot of them have a theme to them already. There is at least one generic press release on there. Feel free to change those. If there's something that's happening in your community that you're aware of, whether it be a parade or maybe they're moving a war hero from one cemetery to another or something of that sort, feel free to use that as a beginning template. Feel free to grab the generic one and make what of it of you will, that a theme or a thing or something that works for your community. Yeah. I'm also going to be putting my information on the chat, so if anybody needs to contact me, you can feel free to do so.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I think Henry dropped your email in there too.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a relevant point. Obviously, we've created a lot of templates based on the things that HQ does. That doesn't mean those are the only things you can do. Please don't limit yourself to that. Some of the best content I've seen are volunteer stories that you never would have thought of, because it's something that's happening in your community. I encourage you to use outreach to press to highlight volunteers, Gold Star families, military families in your community, anyone that you'd like to highlight who's done something worthy of recognition that you want to get the word out. It's just a great way to do that. So again, if you look at one document, I'd look at the Intro to Media Relations just to give yourself a kind of a baseline on some of the things to be thinking about. The biggest takeaway from a media piece is that now is a good time to start. Don't wait till December 1st to reach out to the media and then wonder why they're not getting back to you, especially some of these bigger markets. Depending on the market you're in, if you're in a bigger city, you're going to have a little bit of a harder time breaking through the clutter of a small town, right? If it's just the nature of media. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead, Megan. And again, we've kind of restated all of these things. These are just some of the tools that are all there. But PSAs are also another big one. We're updating our current PSA, just so everyone knows, for this year. We should have that uploaded in a couple weeks here. But a public service announcement is really just a call to action. We have some radio PSAs that the team has done. Those are things that you can actually download now and send to your local media markets. And as they have time, a PSA is something that they're they are legally obliged, local media, to run PSAs a certain amount every month. So those are good tools to get out there and make sure that they're aware. And again, every time you do any outreach, include your direct information, your direct link to your sponsorship group or your location page. Anytime you reach out in any way, make sure that your link is clearly associated with everything that's sent out, so that there's no question if people are clicking on where they're going to be donating or where they're going to get more information. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead, Megan. Okay, so that was a lot about media relations. And again, we could do a whole presentation just on media relations, but again, we have a lot of other tools. The next tool that we're gonna talk about is Reads Across America Radio, and I'm gonna stop talking because we have our radio team on the call, and talk a little bit about our station and how you can get involved with that. So Jeff Pierce, yep, you're gonna start. Susan Patton is also here from Reads Radio, Susan Wave, and I think many people know Susan too. And we are really excited to be able to share this as a tool for you all. So go ahead. I'll shut up, Jeff.
I didn't say that. Those are your words. Okay. So Reads Across America Radio, as Amber said, your radio station. So what we want to do on Reads Across America Radio is highlight your stories and what you're doing to support the mission of Reads Across America, right? Those of you who are veterans, we want to highlight your service. And we want to highlight those things on our channel. How do you do that? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. I put my email in the chat for you, and you can reach out directly to me and we can get you scheduled to be interviewed. Fairly simple. We do these on the phone for the most part, or Zoom if you're technically inclined, just to share your story of service, share your story of what you're doing at your location and how you're supporting the mission. Lots of different ways. We had a really cool article got put out by the VA this past week announcing that we've got over 50 unique programs on our station now, 50 unique shows. It was a combination of us broadcasting podcasts from other entities and some veterans who actually host some music shows as well. And you may have shows in your community that are on your local radio station. And we are happy to partner with those people. We're doing that nationwide in many markets where we're carrying the content, because one thing, we're all here to support the mission of Reads Across America, right? We're honoring our veterans, and no better way to do that than share helpful information for our veterans and volunteers as well. So if you haven't checked out Reads Across America Radio, I see that Anna Diaz politely put the link in the chat, which is awesome. And really that's all I have to say. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories on Reads Across America Radio and be part of this station. The only reason the station exists is because Reads Across America exists. So therefore, if you do not participate, we don't have a radio station, and we're there 24/7, 365. Back to you, Amber.
Thanks. And I would also say one thing about this that I think is interesting. It's really cool to listen to hear what some of your other volunteers are doing. It's a great way to get some ideas if you tune in. And the morning show, we have a weekly morning show Monday through Friday, and Michael W. Hale, at least 3 interviews a day, typically every morning, and he's talking to you all volunteers, and he's sharing the stories of things that you guys are doing in your community. I've learned a lot about what everyone does by listening to our volunteers, which is pretty cool. And the other cool thing, Reads Across America Radio, we get invited to a lot of events, and that's the thing that's pretty awesome about that. I mean, from the Library of Congress to the National Cathedral to the Mid-America Trucking Show that Susan's going to in a couple of weeks. If you're not able to attend some of these events, it's pretty cool to tune in and hear what's happening. It's that live coverage. We have a lot of live coverage coming up from many events, from trucking shows to the Army Women's Foundation National Hall of Fame inductees.
The Hall of Fame and scholarship awards next Thursday from 1 to 3. We'll be broadcasting that on Reads Across America Radio, which is available on the iHeartRadio app, Odyssey, and TuneIn. Just search the word Wreath. And by the way, we're #1 in Wreath-related content.
Yeah. So again, it's a great way to just hear. If you haven't listened in a while, I would encourage you. I have to, I remind myself every few weeks to tune in if I haven't listened in a while, because it's just constantly new things to hear. So encourage everyone to utilize that. And the other thing that's one last thing about Reads Radio that I think is important: when you're interviewed, we produce what we call a SoundCloud file. So if you want to then share that, if you're interviewed, and share that with your folks via email or put it on social media, it's a great way to kind of share what you have going on. So you get that as an option too. So it's just it's a very cool tool. Susan, do you want to add anything?
Think you covered it nicely.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Megan. And then we're gonna get to social media. I think I saw Sam join. We won't put you on the spot, Sam.
I'm here.
Many of you know Sam. Samantha has been working with us for many years. Samantha is our locations and group liaison. She is very active in the private Facebook groups that are accessible to all location coordinators and group leaders. So there's 2 private Facebook groups. And we require you to be a location coordinator, be in one of them, and a group leader to be in the other one. And it's a place for sharing ideas and for getting content. And Samantha is very active there, and she helps people all the time. The other piece that is important is that every month Sam puts out what we call a social media messaging guide. And on that guide, and you can find that on the volunteer resource page. Where else does it go, Megan? It goes on the volunteer resource page.
It goes in the webinar email that you get, the invite. It'll be in there also.
Wonderful, thank you.
And on the Facebook page. Yeah.
And the Facebook page, yeah. Sam puts it in the Facebook page. And really that's a tool. It's a very helpful tool. You can use any of those materials. Those are already branded content that speak to specific days of interest. It speaks to overarching theme, save the dates, things like that. And in there, Sam, you have a little tip sheet, right? Like like hashtags to use and when to use them, things like that. But also she's available to help you set up if you need help setting up a Facebook page, or you're not necessarily sure how to navigate. She's a great person to reach out to for that. The channels that are listed here are all the current channels that Raise Across America has an official presence on. I would tell you that by no means do we expect you to be, or all of you to be on all of these channels. And I don't think you need to worry about that. If you have one channel that you're sharing content on, that's great. Be great at one channel and make sure that people, and Facebook's a good one. A lot of people, when they're looking for information about your event, are going to go to Facebook to see, your updated information, that type of thing. It's always great to share, you can share Raise Across America's official page content. My biggest thing though, anytime you share content, make sure you include your direct link in the post. In the post copy, you need to always be driving people to your direct link so that you can get credit for any of the race sponsorships. People can go to your page to learn more information about your event. So just always keep that in mind. But these are all of our channels. We try to keep these up to date as much as possible. But obviously I don't encourage you to have multiple channels unless you want to do this pretty regularly. It can be a little overwhelming to keep up with all the different channels, but go ahead, Megan. So some tips here, and Sam, jump in at any point if you'd like, but if you have a Facebook page, we're going to predominantly focus on Facebook because that seems to be a page that people feel the most comfortable with, and that's great. And it's kind of a page where at this point, people know how to utilize Facebook. So we're going to start here. It's always good to share regular content. So if you have a Facebook page, don't wait until December 10th to start sharing information, because you're not going to build engagement in a week before your event. You should be sharing content now and all throughout the year, and really work at, it doesn't have to be always about you. I mean, if you look at Raise Across America's official page on Facebook, we have a nice balance of things that we're doing and things that we want people to be invested in and aware of, and then also sharing work from other organizations, work from volunteers, just really good stories about veterans and military families, things that are relevant to the brand and to the mission. That's the stories that we want to share that are going to build community and involve people and have them engage with us. So you also want to share stories about people in your community. If there are veterans in your community, Gold Star families, are there stories from your cemetery that you think people would love to hear? If you're excited by the story, share it, because that means probably somebody else is going to be too.
Even the history of your cemetery and things about veterans in your local area. People love to see stories like that.
Absolutely. I actually think that's a great way to learn, like to partner with your local cemetery. Whoever runs your cemetery, if there's ways to help educate people about the people who are buried there. I always think about Arkansas Run for the Fallen, right? Sam, they have a great example of, they highlight a different Arkansas fallen veteran every week, and they give their picture and they give a little bit of information about where they're buried, how they served. And it's just a great way to introduce the community to these veterans. And it's a nice tool. Thank you messages, highly recommend. If you have a company who's helping you, if you have volunteers, I mean, everyone has volunteers. Social media is a great place to say thanks and to share those photos and really make people who are involved feel good about it. Give them a shout out. It's a great way to get because especially if there's a company or another local organization involved, you give them a shout out, you tag their organization, and you're going to get to see all of their supporters, and then they'll be more likely to share your content, and it goes both ways, right? I would steer away from, unless there's a negative stuff. If there's something that's happening that's negative, I would steer away from that. And please don't be political. We are a national nonprofit 501c3. And as a 501c3, we really can't be political. It goes against our status as a 501c3. And it also just creates division. It creates an opportunity for people to give their opinion. And so, obviously, whatever you do on your personal page, that's your personal, decision. But when you're talking about a Wreaths Across America page, it's just best to stay away from that. And it helps prevent, feedback. That's the best way of saying that. So, we just don't want to create a place where people are going to disagree. And that's not what we're about. So we're about honoring all veterans and their families. So it's, again, the number one thing when you're thinking about social media is to really stay focused on mission relevant storylines. And again, the social media messaging guide is a great place to do that. And honestly, if you just took that and scheduled out content based on the messaging guide, you'd have a pretty full month of social media engagement. Go ahead, Megan. I'm going to let Sam, you talk through the Facebook fundraiser setup, because I am not an expert at this and you are.
So Facebook fundraisers are super easy. The only thing with it is it has to go through the Wreaths Across America official page. So you have to be sure to fill out the form for making sure those funds get allocated to the right group or location. It's super easy though. From the menu button in the top right hand corner, you'll just choose the fundraiser option, and then you'll type in Wreaths Across America and it'll pop right up. And then you can change how much money you want to raise. You can include information on your cemetery and the link to your location page so that people can find it there too. And then you just click create and it's ready to go. And just keep an eye on it and let us know the final end result.
Right. And Megan, I always get this wrong. How do people submit at the end of their Facebook fundraiser? Oh, thank you, Janelle. Just dropped the form in. Thank you.
Yeah, so on the volunteer resource page under order and notification forms, you're going to find a link for the Facebook fundraiser notification form. That's what you need to click on and fill out. And you'll want to take a screenshot of the end result of your fundraiser to upload to that form so that we know to give your group and location credit for those funds when they do come in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know this. So because it's through Wreaths Across America's main page, so Wreaths Across America gets every month gets an allocation from Facebook, but there's no breakdown. So if there was 100 Facebook campaigns, fundraiser campaigns, we would have no way of differentiating who gets what funds unless you submit your campaign information. That way we know how to allocate those dollars on the back end. So that's a pretty important piece. But this is a great tool. You'll see a lot of people who use it for, birthdays, in lieu of presents, birthdays. We know that there's many people who use Facebook fundraisers and have great success with it. So encourage, if you have any questions, and I think there was a question too, if you have questions about changing your graphics, like your cover photos, Sam can help with that. It's just a matter of providing the correct size to edit the photo, and she can help with that. Go ahead, Megan. And so the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is something that's it's what we consider owned media. I mean, I guess all of this is owned media. The radio station and social media channels are owned media also because there are channels. But our newsletter and website blog are also owned channels, and that's a great place to get content. So for instance, our blog articles, Susan does a lot of our blog content. For instance, trucking tribute. So every week we have a trucking tributes on the airs on Rees Radio that gets turned into a blog post. That's a story that gets posted on our website. That's, shared, and it's a great way to, and then we share it on social media. So blog content is just a great way to keep our stories fresh. If you haven't checked out the blog in a while, I encourage you to, because there's a lot of stories on there. I go back to the blog all the time. We joke about, like recycling stories. I mean, Susan did, say it again, Susan, a fish story.
A fish story like none other.
Thank you. Every time. But we have great articles on there about things that our volunteers are doing, that we've interviewed them or people have submitted. That is a great way to share stories and content, and you can update those articles on your dashboard. I'm going to let your liaison tell you how to do that because I'll probably get that wrong. But you can update if you have, same thing with your press releases on your actual page. You can customize your page with your articles. So if you have a press release, if you have a blog article that you want to make on your page, so that when people come to your location or group page, they're seeing only articles that are relevant to you, we can help you do that. So it's a great way. Right now, when people go, they'll see whatever articles come up from the Reads Across America headquarters page, unless you customize that. But you can absolutely do that. So we also have our newsletters. I think our newsletters are a great way and an easy way to get people involved in the mission. So if you have a passive person who maybe doesn't know a whole lot about Reads Across America, one of the easiest things you can do is say, hey, sign up for the monthly newsletter, Mission Matters. It comes to your inbox once a month, and it has all kinds of things that we have going on, it has, shares information about what's going on with Rees Radio, what places we're going to be. It has things that are going on at the highest level. You'll see a message from Karen that what's important that month, events we might be doing, and just really has an overall message about the brand every month and things that are important to the mission. It's an easy way for people to get involved. We have a very engaged audience there. It's about 170,000 people who subscribe. Teaching Times with Reads Across America is our newest newsletter. It's quarterly. It comes out every quarter. We just had our first one came out in February. And in that, we really focus on what curriculum we have out, and maybe where upcoming events we might be having that are relevant, and ways to get engaged on the Teach program. If you are an educator, if you know educators, I highly recommend sharing that with them. It's a great tool to easily access all of our lesson plans, which, by the way, there's a lot of, and if you haven't checked that out in a while, I highly recommend it because there's a lot and it's really good stuff. Moving the Mission is also a quarterly newsletter that is very specific to the transportation space. All of you who are location coordinators know that the trucking industry is just critical to what we do. And it's a place for people who are interested in learning more about what's happening in transportation, and to hear different ways to get involved, but also hear stories about those folks that are involved in the transportation space. Location Connection was a monthly newsletter that only you all got up until last month. We're going to start making that more of a special edition type newsletter. So every few months, you'll see that in your inbox. And that's really targeted at you all, the volunteers who are working on the ground, making the ceremonies and the wreath sponsorships possible. We're going to space them out a little bit more just because we know that we send you a lot of things in email. So we're trying to not overwhelm your email inboxes so much. But most of the content that is in Location Connection can be found regularly on the volunteer resource page. We're going to just highlight some special things to be aware of as they happen. The next issue for that will probably be at this point in early May. And we'll talk about giving in July and some of the summer campaigns we have coming up to be aware of. But those are all great, easy ways to get involved. They're all free. You can unsubscribe at any time or delete them or ignore them if you don't want to read them. But you know, it's always great to learn something new that might be happening because there's a lot going on. I think that was the last one, but we'll see. Megan, yeah, that's it. So the biggest thing, obviously, the communications team is here to help you. We're certainly able to provide support, you know, but your first line of defense is your liaison team. If you're ever not sure, I would start there, and they will direct you to the right person on our team to help however needed, because we want you to be successful. We're trying to come up with tools all the time that would be easy to use, and functional. And maybe you have something that would be helpful that we haven't thought of. So, you know, let us know. And we'll certainly look into that. But our team here is excited about the fact that we really believe that we have established robust programs so that we really are a year-round mission. And there's something to say all the time about what we have going on. So I just encourage you not to wait until November to tell people. It'll make it easier if you start telling people what you're doing now, and it'll get people excited about it come December. But appreciate everyone's time. But does anyone have any questions? That's all we had for our presentation. Don Morris, go ahead.
You're unmuted.
Yep, I can hear you, Don.
iHeartRadio, but I've put in like the call letters. How do I get the Reach Across America Radio on iHeart?
Well, Don, in the search bar on iHeart, on the iHeart app, if you type the word wreath, I believe we're going to pop right up.
Okay, I can try that.
Because we're the only wreath station.
Okay. All right, I'll give it a try. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Absolutely.
Look
And
forward to
Amber,
hearing from you.
if I can, just for 2
Go
seconds
ahead.
before you go into more questions,
Yeah.
I want to let folks know because we got our youth correspondents through our location coordinators. And so it's a program of Wreaths Across America Radio where we are engaging with young people who are interested in reporting for us and with us. And we may be putting some of our youth correspondents in touch with you, location coordinators, to be able to share your stories and to highlight historical pieces on your cemeteries. So if that's something that you're interested in, certainly let us know. Our youth correspondents are going to be growing out through as we do the program. But if you know anyone that you work with directly in your region that is an exceptional young person who might be interested in working with us to prepare reports, we're slowly growing. We've just added a young woman from Rhode Island. We have a young reporter from Texas and one who is placed in Virginia. So that's something that we're doing. And let us know if you've got a young person that you think might make a good little youth correspondent.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me, Susan, thank you for bringing that up. You know, we know that you all take on a lot as volunteers, as group leaders, and as location coordinators. Don't hesitate to, you know, bring somebody on to be your, you know, promotions person. You know, I'm sure there are people in your community I know social media sometimes can be daunting for folks. It's daunting for me. I mean, I'm a better listener than active participant. And you know, it's one of those things where it's okay to ask for help from people, because we don't want to overwhelm anybody. Everything that we've created, we truly create so that it's, you know, easy for you all to use. But again, we know it's a lot, so don't hesitate to try and get people to help be promotions people. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, and to build on that point too, one of the reasons to tell a story, excuse me, one of the reasons to tell a story in your community is because you never know when magic is going to happen and things start to snowball. One particular woman that I have in mind right now, she called me and said, how do I get you know, some notoriety for my program? And we started talking about the history of her area, the history of the people that were buried in the cemetery. And I kid you not, she asked me, does this guy John Philip Sousa mean anything to you? Well, yes, John Philip Sousa, you know, the American music, you know, the national anthem, you know, that sort of thing. You know, yes, that's a very important figure, a wonderful person to, you know, say this is who is buried here and who we're helping to honor with wreaths and things like that. And sure enough, the local band coordinator for the high school put on a special concert featuring John Philip Sousa music, with all the proceeds going to the program. So by, you know, putting together these stories and figuring out some of the things that are important to the community, it's amazing when you care about the community, they care about you. And next thing you know, they're helping to build your program. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
Thanks, Sean. I'm not seeing any other hands up, but that doesn't mean anything. Anything in the chat? Well, that was easy. Well, again, all these resources are online. Feel free to reach out to us. We appreciate everyone's time, and we're going to give everyone back 10 minutes of their evening. And I hopefully there was some nugget in there that would be useful for your efforts locally. So appreciate everybody and all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Amber and team, and everyone for joining.
Yes,
Appreciate you
thanks
all.
everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Megan.